Hello and welcome to this special episode of The Rest is Entertainment with me, Marina Hyde.
And me, Richard Osman. Hello, everybody. This is exciting. We're at your house.
I know.
In one of the wings. The first thing I'll say is, if you have not watched the last two episodes, switch off right now, because we're just going to be talking about it. We're going to be talking about it in depth. So if you don't want any spoilers, watch those episodes. Come back to us. But this is 100% non-spoiler free. This is spoiler full. This is full fat spoiler milk.
I mean, let me just pick my jaw off the floor because we are on a cliffhanger now.
Well, before we say anything, I think we're watching one of the great TV programs.
It is a joke how good it is. It's
everything
a joke
that we wished it could be and more. It's Traitors, but it's a great Traitors. That's all you can ask for.
Sorry, the ratings are now insane. The ratings for we don't know the ratings yet for tonight, but we know for Wednesday, and they were bigger than Strictly, and it's midweek.
It's over 7 million. There's only two shows that have beaten it all year. One was the Women's Euro finals, and the other was Traitors, the final of the civilian version. So this is going to go absolutely crazy in the next couple of weeks. But it deserves to.
And it deserves
Let's talk
to.
about it.
Oh my God. Okay.
A lot happened in because we've got two episodes.
We're going to cover it since we last did this. Quite a lot has happened
since we last spoke.
Shall we?
Do you remember Tom going? That seems a long time ago now.
Maybe let's just start at the end right away quickly, because I think we're all just thinking about the choice of those three to be banished.
Yeah.
Charlotte,
Kate,
or
David, our stablemate.
Our stablemate. I'm not even going to wait for you because it is quite obviously should be Charlotte.
I think it should be Charlotte, yes. I think she's probably the most dangerous of those three people. David, I know they're sort of saying, he's so clever, isn't he? He's going to catch on at us. But at the moment, he's just not a threat at the moment. And a couple of people have started saying, oh, maybe he's a traitor. So all you want in that world is for someone else to get rid of someone. That's great. But who's going to get rid of Charlotte? Probably no one. Kate is, I like they said about Charlotte on Wednesday's episode, the thing about her is she's so loud and so wrong.
Yeah.
And normally you want to keep those people in, but you know, you can sort of see that getting Charlotte out of the way will just remove another big personality from the game.
They'll have to, because she's wrongly backed it being Claire, and then she'll just wheel around and do something totally different.
Well, that's the problem. Like a stopped clock that's right twice a day. When someone like that is right, it's very difficult to budge them.
Yeah, and she'll say a lot of stuff. She is unboundaried. Ruth was unboundaried.
Yes, in a great way.
Ruth was...
For all the good it did her.
As we've said so many times when discussing this show, guys, you really don't need to get a traitor early on.
Yes.
And...
They're still doing, how bad are we at this? Yeah, not particularly bad. You've only had two chances and there's 19 of you. And so statistically, you're
subconsciously you're
fine.
Actually playing well because you don't need to get one. She just felt like you had to say and you had to get someone. I did find it is intriguing when someone, and I don't think I've seen this very much. First of all, I haven't seen a generational distaste like that on Traitors ever. Normally, the older people in Traitors, and funnily enough, Jonathan Ross has become one of those. He's 64, and it's often older women get sort of patronised and sort of coddled and what have you. And we're going to come to one very significant older women in a bit. But normally they do in the civilian version of the format, but they don't get. There's never any sort of aggro. Ruth clearly, literally disliked Jonathan, not in the game, but actually. And I found that quite interesting. She really wanted to shoehorn him almost, I think, into the boomer bit of OK Boomer. And it made me realise that in his career, Jonathan Ross has sort of outrun that stuff. He's always seemed sort of youthful and like the bright young thing. And suddenly you think, oh, you're like an elder statesman now. And she really didn't like it. And what I find interesting is over the last few days, I've seen him, he's gone on a podcast and said, oh, I didn't like it. I didn't like being Traitors. I didn't like having to do the lying. I think he's nervous because as we said all along, it's a risk for celebrities to do this format because celebrities can, go up as well as down in the public estimation. And I think we're already seeing a little bit of a rearguard action there with him saying, well, I didn't like it. I didn't like all the lying. It's
tricky, isn't it? I do think it's again, the fascinating thing about this being a celebrity one, that's what I'm always interested in, is what is it about them being celebrities that makes this a different series? Jonathan, in any regular series of this as a traitor, has literally not put a foot wrong. He's playing it brilliantly. But because he's Jonathan Ross, he is put in an almost impossible position, because Joe Marler, for example, is able to say they're going to put one of the big dogs up against each other. Jonathan
we've
versus
got to have a whole dedicated
Stephen.
section to Joe Marler's theory.
We will get onto that. But what it means is Jonathan's already starting with a disadvantage, because they're sort of true. You do sort of think, well, somebody like Jonathan will be a traitor.
They talk about him like he's Clausewitz. I mean, it's ridiculous. He's like, Bismarck. But
in the regular series, you don't know at that point. You know who's older and who's younger, or who's got a certain background and who doesn't, but you don't know who the alphas are at that stage. You don't know who the people, but whereas he is copper bottomed from the second he walks in, and that puts a target on his back. I find it very difficult to work out how he could have played it any better, and yet immediately he's in big trouble, whereas Alan and Kat seemingly seem to be in absolutely no trouble whatsoever. They seem to be in the opposite of trouble.
Yeah, I mean, at the end when he said, is it just me or is this getting easier, Jonathan? I was like, it's just you. TikTok. Anyhow, moving on to someone like Stephen, who again has even more, people say, oh, David's brilliant, he's so clever. They sort of have been told that. They know that a bit. But Stephen is like everyone's idea of the cleverest person. He's just sort of like that kind of national baseline. Okay?
Especially when David Odoshoga said he's the cleverest person I've ever met.
Well, this is something Tom Daly should have realised, that, again, you don't need to catch a traitor at the start.
Yeah,
and there's a premium on looking stupid. Why do you think Stephen is bumbling around looking like an absolute idiot? I am assuming on purpose, because he isn't one. And kind of becoming that person who just says, oh, I don't know, this is so difficult, that will take Stephen quite far, but he can never win, because ultimately, in my view, by the way, if he does win, then I'm very happy to say, oh my God, don't trust me on anything ever again.
That's the great thing about traitors, is you never know.
You never know.
Yes, it will certainly be difficult for him to win.
Because eventually suspicion will fall on him, because people will just think he's too clever not to be a traitor. It's there's no logic to it.
But also,
particularly
because you can see occasionally he is attempting to lead people in a clever way. He's made two comments. One in the previous week where he said, he talked about Sherlock Holmes and said, don't forget, in the evidence of any evidence whatsoever, we're actually playing a different game here and everyone of course ignores it and goes, yeah, but I think Tamika looks and then this week he said, I mean, we could just ignore what Claudia said and we could all just vote and not talk, because what he's basically saying is we get this wrong when the wisdom of crowds,
although they do herd far less than the civilians.
Oh my God, there was like 8 votes in a row which were
constantly, it's all over the
solo
shop.
Yeah. Especially when you got someone like Celia around, you just think, she could literally go for anyone. Staying
with Stephen, yes, he will start to control, but in a different way to the way, obviously, because he isn't a traitor. He understands the assignment, which is that they don't need to catch anybody, and actually just bumbling under the radar is by far the best game plan for him, just particularly given everything
get the numbers down. Get the numbers down, and then you can start seeing what's going on. But it's amazing, because I think this might be in the British one the best group of contestants we've ever had. Firstly, because they've already seen quite a lot of series of it, and secondly, there's something about the way their TV minds work that really, really helps them out. There are very few people in there that think like regular contestants. There's the odd one or two, which is just, I've got a feeling, I'm going to go with my gut on this. So there's the odd one or two person who play like a regular traitors, but most of them are kind of going, no, what is going on here? It's amazing how many good game players there are. And, if you look at the interviews with either of the Joes, you look at, Celia, any of these people.
Can I just say that Joe Marler's comment, his theory is by far the most intelligent theory that has been floated on the screen, namely that
the big dog theory.
The big dog theory. As it immediately became christened, Jonathan probably has been put in as a traitor, and Stephen as the sort of Holmes to his Moriarty.
Yes, or one of them definitely has. And at the moment, it looks like they would go for Jonathan before they went for Stephen. So actually, that's going to work very nicely, because it's not like they're going to go for Jonathan. He's a faithful, so it must be Stephen.
Yeah, Jonathan's going over the Reichenbach Falls in this particular analogy. I agree.
It feels like he's going to.
Stephen kept saying, that somebody is working as, a brilliant mind, a sort of fiendish mind. It's like, get over yourselves. You don't really need Moriarty against you for this one.
I know. Like, the traitors must be so clever. You think, there's 19 people you've only voted out 2. It's not the hardest thing in the whole world. If they'd literally done nothing, then statistically you probably would have voted out 2 faithful. Like no one's really putting your strings all that well. And the only things they have done is, Alan getting rid of Paloma, which instantly makes people think, oh, maybe that's the only thing that's made people think it might be Alan. And then Jonathan getting rid of Ruth, which has made everyone think maybe it's Jonathan. So the only two really big moves they have made have drawn suspicion on themselves. So it's not like, they're not like the greatest geniuses of all time, but it's impossible to be at this stage.
Sorry, you've just said his name and I can think of nothing else. My immense love for Alan Carr,
is unbelievable,
which I thought couldn't get any bigger, has discovered an entire new wing with this series.
Absolute fair play to whoever decided he should be a traitor, because he's a left field choice and he is unbelievable.
I want to talk about two things with him. I want to talk about him as a player and as a booking, because he is acing it as both. And I think that's absolutely... I tell you what, it's great when people understand that they are on an entertainment show and that you are singing for your supper. Not only is he, and some of the stuff, how quick he was, when Jonathan came down and someone said, is that your Flintstone costume? And he was like, yabba dabba don't. And I thought, oh my God, you're doing that. He also understands that thing, which I think is, he sings for his supper. He has a sense of occasion. He understands he's on a light entertainment format. Some of them are really vanishing. Even people who in other formats, you've seen on a panel show, you've maybe seen their stand-up, whatever it is. It's like, you're nothing here at the moment and you're not really grabbing hold of it. He is completely dominating it in an entirely authentic way. But he also does understand... I sometimes think of it, when I was watching, I was thinking, this is a little bit like Question Time. Stay with this.
Yes.
Because you've got the audience where you're doing it. You've got the studio audience, as you have on Question Time. And then you've got all the people back home. And something that might get a clap from the studio audience, the people back home might think, And as we said, it does matter how celebrities behave on this format, because their careers are, I don't want to say at risk, because nothing terrible is going to happen, but they can go up as well as down. And something about the way he is everything. Is it Meredith Brooks? I'm a bitch, I'm a lover, I'm a child, I'm a mother, I'm a saint, I'm a sinner, and I'm not ashamed. Okay? He is the full threat. And he
when
understands...
he absolutely fronts up to Celia.
Yeah.
As well. And says, well, you put my name on the slate. And that is not his personality type. That's him thinking, this would be a lot of fun if I said this.
Yeah, because he understands, but he's also giving the audience something, which the audience at home, which is, as we talked before when we were talking in the Q&A episode about, like, try and think of these things as fiction and that, their heroes or anti-heroes are trying to get their goals. What he does is he's shown you a journey. Think of him going to pieces at the start. That feels quite a long way away now. Like, he's becoming, it is like Breaking Bad or something like that. You're becoming a kingpin, or you're becoming... It's one of those stories.
Yeah, if you'd said within 3 episodes, one of these two men, Jonathan or Alan, will be almost unassailable. You wouldn't say Alan has absolutely grown into... He's like an accountant who's accidentally been made the head of a mafia family. And everyone's going, he's not going to be able to handle this. He's just an accountant. He's not going to be able to handle the violence. And within kind of a year, he's just killed everybody.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Scarface. Yeah. It's hilarious, but also like an ordinary person who's thrown into extraordinary events, and he's just done it brilliantly. And I just find it incredibly impressive. And I do find that thing of not going to pieces and remembering that you are on an entertainment format, and that's what you've been booked for. So it's a brilliant booking as well as a brilliant player.
Jonathan, I felt a little bit for, because he's put himself in a position where someone is accusing him of lying. Okay, so not only do I have to defend myself as a traitor, I have to defend myself as a television personality now as well, which is a slightly different thing. And as you say, is actually more valuable to him than his status as a traitor. Yeah. If he's just a regular punter,
that's the day job,
playing the show, then he winning is absolutely everything. Whereas for Jonathan, he would rather be voted out and loved than win absolutely and be hated, because the win is being loved. But what an able partner he has in Kat, who's just... She doesn't put her foot wrong. She's
like got that thing. Yeah, she's got that thing where she says, maybe because I'm quite young and quiet, she knows herself very well. Actually, quite a lot of celebrities don't necessarily know themselves in the same way, and they don't necessarily see how they might come across. She really knows herself and thinks, I will always be underestimated, and that's great. I
think we'll get on to who we think is going to be voted off, but it feels like Jonathan's journey will be cut short. It feels I can't work out how he's going to survive another.
It's unsalvageable.
Two or three banishments.
Even the medium term.
I think he sort of knows that as well. There's a few people you can throw under the bus. So it feels like he will definitely be kicked out before Alan or Kat, and so we will be in a situation next week, presumably, where Alan and Kat have to recruit. At that stage, two very strong traitors in Alan and Kat. Let's assume their strength remains for a couple of episodes. Who is it that they can bolster themselves with? Who could take at least one of them through to the end of the series? Because it's going pretty quickly.
I'm finding her absolutely mesmerising, and it is Celia.
Yes.
Because it's terrifying because there's that she's so unpredictable.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone thinks it's her particularly. I mean, she has been nominated a couple of times.
Yeah.
Just as a sidebar, I have to say, the Thursday Murder Club is about not really underestimating all the people. It's just like given the role in the movie.
Yeah.
She's like a walking marketing campaign for the entire concept of your world.
Having known her now for a little while and love her very much, she is genuinely entirely unfiltered. Yeah. In the way that lots of people go, thing about me is I'm unfiltered, and you go, well, are you? She really is. She literally will just say whatever she wants at any given time, and she loves getting a reaction. She loves mischief. She loves trouble, and what a room to be in when you like all of those things. She also slightly knows she's untouchable for a bit. She understands the status that she has, and it would be very, very hard to get rid of her. So she knows she's got free reign just for a little while.
I
just
feel
to mix
she's
it
too
up.
unpredictable to get that third spot when they have to recruit.
Agreed.
What do you think, before we narrow it down then, are the key attributes for that third spot? Is it just someone you would never suspect, or is it someone who... there are dark horses in this, like someone like Lucy Beaumont, who, again... we always say there's a stupidity premium. She's not stupid at all.
No,
but she can create
the image of being.
She can create a vibe of stupidity, and there are certain people like that. What do you think are the attributes that are best in the recruited?
Well, if you're thinking about someone, there are stages of the traitors where if you bring someone on, you need them to do two things. You need them to keep you safe for maybe 2 banishments. And then you need to throw them under the bus. So you need somebody who can do both of those things. So it has a hint of suspicion about them, but also a hint of solidity.
But they also normally need to be suspecting you as well, because it's the only way. If you can't murder them for one reason or another, it's quite helpful to just say, okay, now you work for us.
In some ways, Joe Marler would be an amazing traitor, but I genuinely think, and I'm sure Joe would agree with this, I think he would go to pieces if he was a traitor. I think you can see he has such a moral core that the very act of being a traitor, I think, might be too much for him. Do you have to recruit Stephen, because basically otherwise people will retain him and are just already psychologically thinking of him as the to go back to that. I don't know. I think it's too obvious. I think you just murder Stephen at some stage. I would go for Lucy or Joe Wilkinson, I think. Yes, I think I would probably too. Can we talk about shields? They all deferred and sort of gave Stephen a shield. Yeah. What was all this about? I felt like I missed a 7-second lacuna of the show and fully misunderstood. Shields, when Shields first came along, I thought, oh, this is just some pointless, silly gimmick that I did, it has become a brilliant way of, and people's behaviour over them. Yeah. They're such a sort of hot potato. People think if you look happy to have one, then you are a traitor. I know. If you give it up, that means you're a traitor. It's one of the great illogical leaps of the game. The other one is, if someone writes your name on the board, whoever that person is must be a traitor because they've suspected the saintly you. Yeah, exactly. So and you know for a fact that you're faithful. So therefore, that's one of the great logical fallacies. And that's what Stephen said. There is no data. There is no data. So you try and find data. You try and find patterns. You're just looking for anything. And actually, the only thing there really is listening. That's the only thing you can ever do, and just listening to tones of voice and stuff like that. I thought Jonathan had a big tell when he said corroborate.
instead of corroborate. And I just thought you were really nervous at that moment and you said the wrong word. And he's sort of so famously kind erudite, of loquacious and doesn't make mistakes.
Being on that show, I mean, it'd be so hard. There's so much going on all the time. And you're aware that you don't want to be accused of anything, but you're also aware you don't want to accuse anyone else of anything, really. I mean, the best thing to do is say nothing at all, but you can't even say nothing at all. So what can you do? As we said last time, if you're a comedian, actually there's a number of moments where Joe and Adam were able to absolutely deflect quite difficult questions. Yeah. Because they could just be funny, and it goes away. It goes away immediately, and that's a very, very useful thing to do. But it's hard to know what to do. When they're saying to David Odeshogo, when they're saying, yeah, you've been very quiet, you think, yeah, he's just been put in a house with Jonathan Ross, Claire Balding, Alan Carr, Celia Imrie. Yeah. What do you think he's going to be? Yeah. He's an historian. Yeah. He's not Larry Grayson.
You've done very little history. Yeah. Which should be the rejoinder.
Why don't you wait for there to be like 6 or 7 people and see if maybe he's got a few things to say for himself. But if you were put in that room, you might also be quite quiet. And if you weren't quiet, people would go, it's a bit weird. We've got Alan Carr and Jonathan Ross and you're doing all the talking.
But this herding thing is interesting because it is, as you say, you're always interested in how they're different to the civilians. The civilians understand, or whether they understand, either way, what happens is the result is they tend to herd. Yeah. Everyone says, I came in with one idea tonight and you've swayed me, whoever, Paul, because you're saying this about somebody. And then they all herd round and you do get a few, outlying votes and things like that.
On Wednesday, I think the first 8 votes were for different people. And Tamika went out on 3 votes, which is, that's tough. But it is that thing of they're not herding and they are willing to back themselves. But we're not hearing a lot of that.
But I think they're not herding for other reasons as well. I think they're being asked to commit and feeling like they're committing to some kind of pylon. It slightly reminds me of, people always say, once a prime minister has ever done a reshuffle, that's you just become weaker because you have more enemies on the back benches. Every time you have to say something, it's almost worth it to them to say a different name every time and not actually, which is a form of not committing, rather than being one of those civilians who just come back every day and say, well, I'm sorry, I'm still going to say it. I think it's Jonathan night after night. They're not doing that. They're dotting around, which is which I genuinely think is a psychological sort of failure to commit for reasons like that. They just think they understand popularity in a different way to the game players in the civilian version.
But I was literally just thinking, as you were saying there, what on earth are we thinking, saying Joe Wilkinson or Lucy to be who we'd recruit? Because if it was you or I, who we'd recruit? Nick.
Yes.
Of course it's
Sorry,
Nick.
what are we talking about?
Why
have we forgotten
Because
Nick?
Even here, he's going under the radar.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yet he's so utterly charming. He's such an amazing game player. When they did the task, when they're having to unlock all the chains, and, they normally edit those, so there's like 2 seconds left at the end. And because they've got Nick, who understands how all puzzles work, and then they've got Joe Marler, who can make a pulley work really, really, really quickly. They had like 5 minutes, 17 seconds left. I've never seen a task, because the way they do all of those tasks is they'll play it through like loads of times with researchers. They'll see like the longest time it took, the shortest time it took. They will they'll go, we need it to take, it's 20 minutes, so we need it to take 18 and a half to 19 minutes, 45 seconds. That's what we need. And they will have worked out the fastest time anyone ever did it, and they go, oh, actually, because that took you 22 minutes, so we just need to make that clue a tiny bit easier, and we'll make this pulley thing a tiny bit easier. The fact they did it in 15 minutes, 30 seconds tells me nobody in any rehearsal had got close.
You got these two
to that time.
Very different outliers.
Yeah.
Yes, you're quite right. So, it should be Nick, and you'll see because also what you can do then is draw on that brilliant strategic and quizzing and kind of that kind of a brain, and then eventually you can throw him under the bus by saying, you see, Nick, we all know that Nick is actually, and what's emerged is that he's of a special form of genius himself, because
he's been very quiet.
Yeah,
for a man who will have seen every single angle of every single angle, he's certainly not letting us inside his brain. He'd be your
brilliant consigliere, he's like Gabriel Byrne in Miller's Crossing.
Yes.
And then exactly unfortunately has to end unhappily. But but yes, that's what they could do, because I think you would just try and draw on him, because eventually he's going to work it out presumably quicker than everyone else.
Yeah. But who's going to go in the next episode? So we have David. He's been quiet, hasn't he? We have Charlotte, and we have Kate, who was the kind of first suspected person, and everyone seems to have gone cold on suspecting Kate for now. But who do we think?
She had a little drive-by from Alan. So
I mean, everyone. He is genuinely extraordinary how he's turned into an arch villain.
I'm here for every nanosecond of it. I literally couldn't love him more now.
Yeah.
It's hysterical. It's brilliant.
So we think Charlotte.
Well, yeah, she's a liability. You just got to get it. You just don't know what she's going to do next. She's a liability, and you can't.
If there's a grenade in the room, you throw the grenade out.
Yeah.
The production design is unbelievable.
I love that they finally cracked the tasks and they just keep
you got
doing the same.
The shields worked beautifully, and then just making it a sort of folk horror thing every week.
Every single week. And like a sort of a dark, twisted version of the Tri-Wizard egg thing from Harry Potter. Or anything in a cloak and a mask
when they
in a wood.
Dragged out of the Range Rovers in the woods by people with masks. You were generally thinking, oh, this is like a Norwegian horror movie.
Everything is like a sort of grim Scottish midsummer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's so good. The gothicness and also because it aligns perfectly with Claudia's kind of persona for the show.
Yeah.
And it just all works. And it is, while it's gothic, it is also hysterically camp, which I love.
Who haven't we talked about? We haven't talked about, and he was a very interesting case in these two episodes, Mark Bonner, who I liked very much, but he absolutely had that actor thing. After he'd accused Tamika and he got it wrong, he absolutely went in on himself, and was so self-flagellating to the point that that'll get him into trouble. Yeah,
like it did on Kate, who had to then say, "I'm a terrible ham."
Yeah.
But at least for something, because her screen time keeps being, and then we saw the cabin, and then we were like, oh no, this is so gross. It's one of those things. So I think she is going to have to pull out and do more in order to sort of resist the attentions of the group.
And when he came down to breakfast the next day, he goes, oh, I barely slept. And as Ingrid said, you had a massive, like almost a pint of red wine after... After the banishment. Of course you didn't sleep, mate. I mean, he had a shield, so it wasn't that.
There is no judgment here, by the way.
No, we would have had a bottle. I would drink so much in that castle.
There's no judgment in here.
Yeah. The Joe and Joe friendship I like very much.
Oh, I love that. That's a great double act.
Yeah.
Just so sort of unexpected. You'd think that could develop into a useful alliance.
Yeah.
It and almost become something worth splitting up if you were recruiting. So I think I have to think about that.
And Joe Wilkinson is another one like Alan who understands he's in an entertainment show.
Yeah,
completely. And will do jokes.
And yet equally has that very, very specific Joe Wilkinson persona, which he somehow makes fit the game, which I find quite interesting to be able to be yourself.
Yeah.
It's very, as we said, it's very difficult for Jonathan Ross to be himself because he is someone who, by nature of the day job, controls events. And it's just really, whereas Joe Wilkinson is lost in a mad world. So it's easier to adapt that persona to the game.
Now, shall we talk about Claire leaving? So we had a couple of questions actually from listeners saying, do you think anyone contractually said, I will come and do Celebrity Traitors, but I'm not allowed to leave till like episode 4 or something like that? And definitively not. No way. Couldn't do it.
No way.
Literally.
Not in a million.
Impossible to do. I'm not saying there won't be the odd agent who asks for it, but definitively not. But
who's with Avalon?
Yeah, exactly. But Claire is the first of the kind of national treasures, if you like.
Yeah.
And they couldn't care less. They just went, you know what? We're absolutely getting rid of her. That thing of...
I find the talking of national treasurehood
it's interesting.
A little could border on the distasteful.
It's shorthand though for Alpha, I think.
I know.
In this instance, it's shorthand for that. And Claire, and by the way, I don't think Claire would ever say she's a national treasure. I don't think she's described as one. So that's my shorthand.
It's the general. It's the talking about it.
Okay, instead of national treasure, I will use the word big dog.
Yeah, big. Yeah.
Okay, she was the first of the big dogs.
She was too forthright though.
Well, I think when you centre in on someone like Jonathan, there's always a blast radius.
You can't be the king.
Like my granddad said, if you're called to a fight in a pub, make sure you're second through the door. And Claire, I think, was first through the door. Well, Claire and Ruth and look what happened to both of those. So I think...
Yes, both of them had a similar sort of thing where they said, I'm going to say exactly what I think. I'm going to be nice to everyone. So like, no. Okay, you need to spend the day slagging someone off in order that you can build a definitive alliance, and then you do it. And then they will herd behind you, although this lot don't herd so much at the moment.
They don't. I felt bad for Jonathan with the alliance thing, because whether he said it or not, he was literally just being driven there. He didn't even know.
He
was
a
a traitor.
Why didn't he just say, I don't even know if I said that, or something?
Well, I think once you say I didn't once, because I think it hadn't occurred to, I think he just, that thing of when you are slightly falsely accused, he was just saying, oh, Lee, you're fine, listen, we're with you. He was just being nice to two people who were saying we don't know anyone.
It's just a random thing he said in the car.
A random thing he said in the car, and it gets brought up, and then so he immediately is defensive.
Well, therefore I think that, plot lines, she didn't like him for other reasons, and that became something that was used as a sort of retrofitted as a reason. But to
reiterate, this show is so good.
Oh my God, it's just a joke how good it is.
Yeah,
I'm so
really
pleased.
Great.
And
so
it gets
excited.
better every time, and it is different as a celebrity format. And we're just seeing all the different ways and the sort of different branching fallouts of it all.
I'm already so excited for the second series. I mean, this one hasn't even finished. Like when you're eating your tea and you can't wait for tomorrow's tea.
Yeah.
It's like that. You just think it immediately. Almost anyone you can think of. You're like, oh my God, they would be amazing in Celebrity Traitors 2.
It's absolutely brilliant. It's faultlessly done by Studio Lambert, by the BBC.
It really is.
I couldn't. It's great, and just like a massive midweek hit.
I mean, genuinely enormo hit.
Yeah,
like a proper like universe-sized hit in the way that we don't have hits like that anymore.
Yeah,
and it's only going to get bigger as well. And it gives us the opportunity to do this as well,
which I love.
It's such fun. I wish they'd have it on year round. We just talk about.
We'd just like to do it
for
every
a living.
week.
Yeah, I'd love to do that.
Me too.
But it's magnificent. I hope you're absolutely loving it. So we'll come back and do more next week.
Oh my God, we're definitely going to be back next week.
Yeah.
I've got a lot to get out.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for watching or listening, however you do it. And I can't believe we've got to wait a week.
It's a lot. Well, it's 6 days, so that's just...
I suppose so.
That's just...
6 more sleeps.
Yeah, 6 more sleeps. Okay, We'll see you back here next week.
See you next week, folks.
Bye.